We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle around to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle around to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love.
Good morning. Welcome to the live in-person and live Zoom worship service of the Universalist Unitarian Church of Riverside. Our opening hymn this morning is number 63, Spring Has Now Unwrapped the Flowers, from the Gray Hymnal. Feel free to sing as the Spirit moves you, and stand and body your spirit and join us in singing number 63, Spring Has Unwrapped the Flowers.
Spring has now unwrapped the flowers, day is fast reviving, life in all her growing powers, towards the light is striving. Good the eye and touch of cold, winter time and frost time, seedlings working through the mold, will make up for lost time. All the world with beauty fills, gold the green enhancing, flowers make merry on the hills, set the meadows dancing. Earth puts on her dress of glee, flowers and grasses hide her, going forth in charity.
Thank you for joining us here in person, and thank you for joining us remotely by Zoom, where we will continue live streaming and posting these services on our YouTube channel for all of our virtual attendees. I'm Grace Preuss, and I will be your worship associate today. Other members of the worship committee who make the service possible include Alec Peck, our music coordinator, who will also be leading our flower communion service today, Adam Wedeking, who monitors our visual and online connections, and Kate Lewicki, who is in charge of our sound system. We welcome you to join us this morning with an open mind and an open heart, and with muted electronic devices, please. There is a lot to celebrate. Today is Mother's Day. Today, let us mark how beautiful and complex it can be to mother and to be mothered. To all those who have mothered and to all of our caregivers, we thank you. Today, we also celebrate the annual UU Flower Communion. Welcome, old friends and new, young and old. You are an essential part of today's celebration of shared community. We are one people of many beliefs, many origins, many qualities, and many strengths. We are all growing, all learning, all loved, just as we are. And we are all welcome here today. We celebrate the annual flower ceremony originated by Unitarian minister Norbert Chapek in 1923, symbolizing the light and color and fragrance of creeds, many cultures, and many races joining together in a bright, living bouquet. Before we move into the service, there are a few announcements we'd like to share. We will mention several websites, email addresses, and phone numbers. At the end of the service, we will leave up a slide with all of this information, and it is also available on our website. May board meeting. Please note that there's a time change in the May board meeting. It will be held on May 15th at 2:30 p.m. in the church annex. Family barbecue. Come celebrate summer with us at a family barbecue on Saturday, May 18th at 3 p.m. It will be held on the lawn between the annex and the church. Tickets are now on sale, so please see Kate or Robert if you're interested in attending. Adults are $25 or volunteering equity. Children 6 to 12 are $10 and under 6 are free. And now I invite you to sit back and take a slow, deep breath as we move into the worship hour. You are welcome to read with me our mission statement. Our mission is to foster a diverse religious community and celebrates life, affirms the individual, encourages spiritual growth and open thought, and works and environmental sustainability. Our speaker today is Alec Peck, who will be leading us in our flower ceremony. Alec has been a practicing UU for 23 years and has a deep passion for the intellectual and spiritual challenges which arise from exploring the 6 sources of our living tradition. He was raised in a UU church chosen by his father, who was raised Quaker, and his mother, who was raised Jewish, though both are humanists in practice. Alec recently spent 2 years studying natural science at Creighton University, a Jesuit institution, and is now completing his PhD at UC Riverside. The flower ceremony, or flower communion, is an annual ritual that celebrates beauty, human uniqueness, diversity, and community. In this ceremony, everyone brings a flower to place in a shared vase. The congregation blesses the flowers and then given back out, with each person bringing home a different flower than the one they brought. Our spirit is like a garden, filled with the plants and flowers that make us who we are. We don't always get to choose what seeds make their way into our soil, but we can choose what we nurture and what we let go of. We can choose to nurture our beauty together. We have two lightings of sacred flames. The first is a remembrance candle for the indigenous peoples whose traditional territories are now occupied by this sacred space and who continue to cry out for justice and self-determination. This spot we occupy was originally the sovereign space of the Cahuilla, the Cupeño, the Serrano, and others. We, the Universalist Unitarian Church of Riverside, light this sacred flame as the stewards of this sacred and holy place. Our second flame is our own chalice, the symbol of our faith. We are blessed with this space and opportunity to strive to live out our common principles, to bring justice, equity, and compassion into our daily lives, to resist all that threatens the earth and her people, and to be part of a world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all. Let these thoughts carry us forth as we journey and worship together. Thank you, Bill. Today's chalice lighting words are "Once More" by Amy Bowden Friedman. Once more, the earth has turned toward the light of the sun. As we are bathed in the light of a new day, so may we greet the dawning of fresh possibility. Once more, we awaken from our slumber. As our bodies rise to meet the challenges and pleasures of living, so may our hearts and minds open with promise. Once more, we gather for worship. As we join our voices in word and song, so may this assembly bring forth wholeness. Come, let us worship. We have a tradition at UUCR to welcome those who are visitors or perhaps returning after some time away. We know it can be uncomfortable to stand up and speak in front of others, and so I will now ask for a volunteer from someone who has been here a while to tell us your name and how you found out about our church. We ask you to step close to the mic in front of the pulpit and speak into it directly and clearly so that everyone can hear. Please be aware that you'll be visible on our Zoom camera and in the recording of this service, which is posted online. Do we have any church volunteers today who'd like to volunteer? Thank you, Dinah.
My husband, Bill, and I were members of the Long Beach Church, and we moved to this area. One day somebody said, you know, there's a Unitarian church in Riverside. We drove down Mission Inn and we saw somebody out here painting the ramp, the wheelchair ramp. And I says, well, I guess there are people there. So we went in the office and met the administrator at the time, Eileen, and we've been members here ever since 2004.
Thank you, Dinah. And that's how it's done. So if you are new here, a visitor, or an old friend, please raise your hand to stand and come up in front of the mic. Do we have any volunteers this morning? Any new people who would like to introduce themselves? No. Oh, okay. Ralph? A new puppy. Oh, okay. If there's someone online who'd like to introduce themselves, please raise your hand and we will call on you by Zoom. Let us know who you are, where you are from, and how you found out about us. No? Okay, I think we have someone here in the back who'd like to introduce themselves. Good morning. Oh, you can stand right here.
Hola, mi nombre es Estrella. ¿Cómo estás hoy, ese día? Más que decir, gracias a Dios, el mejor Espíritu de Santo de Dios, Todo va a ser muy feliz ese día. And don't forget about Jesus Christ at the end of the day. You should always remember, well, you always gotta choose Jesus Christ and the Holy Spirit with him. Then the devil, why would you want to choose that? Cut half the base of it because I know too much information. It's TMI. That's partially, that's what I mean. That's what I say. Why would you rather choose the Jesus Christ at the day? Because who's gonna be there? What's there in the pains and spiritually mortal worlds? If you want to keep it as deep, don't think that deep. It's have a deep cut. The other day, we rather wake up and be in the gardens of angels, and don't forget your Holy Spirit with your son that brings guardian angels. And who are your guardian angels? Amen.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Good morning.
Oh, there. Thank you. Can you hear me?
Now. Yeah.
Great, say yes.
Yeah, yes, we can hear you now. Could you repeat that? We were muted for a second there.
Yes. I moved to Redlands from Santa Barbara, and I attended the UU church there a number of times. I'm so grateful that you have a Zoom option as well. I am struggling with chronic illness, so this allows me to attend, and I'm very happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. Could you tell us your name, please?
Pamela Emerson.
Pamela Emerson. Okay, thank you for joining us today. We're glad to have you here.
Thanks.
For any other new guests, please join us for socializing and coffee hour after the service. We'd love to chat with you out in the parish hall, where you can also find our visitors book. Please leave your name before you leave so that we know you are here, and leave your contact information if you would like to know about upcoming events. For those online, the best way to get added to the mailing list is to email the church office at admin@uuchurchofriverside.org. Our hymn now is number 1020, Wo Ya Ya, from the Teal hymnal. Feel free to sing as the Spirit moves you, and stand and body your spirit, and join us in singing number 1020, Wo Ya Ya.
We are going, heaven knows where we are going, but we know where then we will get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. It will be hard, we know, and the road will be muddy and rough, but we'll get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. Wo-ya-ya, 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 wo-ya-ya. We are going, heaven knows where we are going, but we know we're there. We will get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. It will be hard, we know, and the road will be muddy and rough, but we'll get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. Wo-ya-ya, wo-ya-ya,
This portion of our service is to support our beloved historical church. This can be accomplished in several ways. In addition to the weekly collection, you may send your checks to the church address, which is shown here. You may contribute by PayPal using the QR code, which is shown here, as well as on the church website and in the newsletter. Stater Brothers Market gives our church a rebate on Stater groceries cards, which we will have in church each Sunday. Amazon gift cards are also available. You get the full value of your purchase, and the church also receives a percentage for free. Please see Dinah Rowe, or Robert Brown in the church office if you are interested in purchasing the gift cards. Please donate as the Spirit moves you by whatever method works best for you. Thank you for your generosity. To those of you who give their time and their talent, thank you for your generous care and attention. And to all of you who have joined us here today, thank you for the gift of your presence. Will our ushers now please come forward to receive the collection? A bag will also be passed around to collect food and hygiene items for those in need. Thank you. Our next hymn, number 402, From You I Receive, is from the Gray Hymnal. Please feel free to sing as the Spirit moves you, and stand in body or spirit and join us in singing hymn number 402, From You I Receive. Our meditation today is a responsive reading by Amy Zucker Morgenstern. I invite you to join in reading the bold italicized lines projected on the slide. Each of us is a flower with a delicate beauty uniquely our own. We may be like sunflowers, turning always towards the light. We may be like night blooming cereus, only displaying our fragrant petals when it is dark and we think no one can see. We may be hothouse flowers, far from native lands, cautiously tended within a harsh and unfamiliar climate. We may be gray-headed like dandelions, eager to launch the new generation with the first strong gust of wind, past our own bright youth, but ready to pass our wisdom on in precious gossamer carried seeds. Some of us, sometimes, spring up overnight and fade in the hot glare. Some of us, sometimes, are roses, slowly assembling petal after tightly wrapped petal, and revealing our full glory only when everything is in place. Sometimes we are roadside weeds, loveliness bursting improbably from the dust and the debris. May we offer our beauty with the simplicity of flowers, expecting no recognition, hoping for nothing, giving out of what we are and knowing it is enough. Amen. Now let us pause for a moment of silence and reflection. Now I would like to introduce Alec Peck, who will be leading us in the 2024 Flower Communion. Alec?
Thank you, Grace. And I am so happy that I get to share this ritual with you today. The Flower Communion was a service created by Norbert Chopek, who founded the Unitarian Church in Czechoslovakia. He introduced this special service to that church on June 4th of 1923. The Unitarian Universalist Flower Communion service, which we are about to celebrate, was originated in 1923 by Dr. Norbert Chopek, founder of the church in Czechoslovakia. Excuse me, I just said that. On the last Sunday before the summer recess of the Unitarian Church in Prague, all the children and adults participated in this colorful ritual, which gave concrete expression to the humanity-affirming principles of our liberal faith. When the Nazis took control of Prague in 1940, they found Dr. Chopek's gospel of the inherent worth and dignity and beauty of every person to be, as the Nazi court record shows, quote, too dangerous to the Reich for him to be allowed to live, unquote. Dr. Chopek was sent to Dachau, where he was killed the next year during a Nazi, quote, medical experiment. This gentle man suffered a cruel death, but a message of hope, of human hope and decency, lives on through the Flower Communion, which is widely celebrated today. It is a noble and meaning-filled ritual which we are about to recreate. And this service includes the original prayers of Dr. Chopek, slightly paraphrased, that will help us remember the principles and dreams for which he died. For some time, he had felt the need for some symbolic ritual that would help bind people more closely together. The format that would not alienate anyone who had forsaken other religious traditions. The traditional Christian communion service with the bread and the wine was unacceptable to the members of his congregation because of their strong reaction against the Catholic faith. So he turned to the native beauty of the countryside for elements of a communion which would be genuine to them. This simple service was the result, and it was such a success that it was held yearly just before the summer recess of the church. People were asked to bring flower of their choice, either from their own gardens or from the fields or roadside, and when they arrived at the church, A large vase stood waiting in the vestibule, attended by 2 members of the church school. Each person was asked to place their own flower in the vase, which was signified by their own free will as they joined in with the others. The vase that contained all the flowers was a symbol of the united church of fellowship. After the service, as people left, they went to the vase and each took a flower that was different from the one they had brought. The significance of the flower communion is that no 2 flowers are alike, just as no 2 people, and yet each has a contribution to make. Together, the different flowers form a beautiful bouquet. Our common bouquet would not be the same without the unique addition of each individual flower. And thus it is with our community. It would not be the same without each and every one of us. And this service is a statement of that community. By exchanging flowers, we show our willingness to walk together in our search for truth, disregarding all that might divide us. Each person takes home a flower brought by someone else, thus symbolizing our shared celebration in community. This communion of sharing is essential to a free people of a free religion. Children of the earth and sky, we are nurtured, sustained, given warmth and light from above and below, supported by earth's strong, firm crust where we build our homes, till the fields, plant our gardens and orchards. When we turn from self and seek to be aware, we find holy light in human faces, in blossoms, in bird songs and sky. Then earth is truly our home, and we are one with all of earth's creatures, parents of earth's children yet to be. In this politically divisive time, it is important more than ever to remember the diversity of beauty is what gives the bouquet its life and vibrancy. We may not have chosen the world that we were born in, but we do choose who we break our bread with and who we share our flowers with. It is beautiful and magical that we find ourselves here together, that it is you and me to breathe the sweet scent and embrace the beauty of the earth. Now, I also want to share with you a beautiful metaphor that I have come across, which this service reminds me of before we do our ritual. I've heard that our soul is like a garden, a plot of land in which we live. Now, since the word soul has so many meanings, I'd like to be specific with what I mean. All of our sensory experiences of this world rush into us as sounds and sights. The view through our eyeballs is projected onto an inner screen that sees this world. And our soul is that screen, that inner screen on which the world is projected. This is the best metaphor that I've found for what this soul thing is. And no metaphor is perfect, but they are, and some are better than others. And so in this garden metaphor, I want to remind you that we are both the soil and the plants, but we are also the gardener. And as we walk down the way of our life, we come across many ways to live our lives, things that we like and dislike, ideas about what is right and what is wrong. And we may and often do get conflicting ideas. Be frugal and think for the long term, but you should enjoy the now and treat yourself. Honor your parents and heritage. It is Mother's Day after all. But you should also forge new art and new traditions. We should be respectful and accepting, but we should also speak up against injustice. Each of these ideas plants a few seeds in our garden. And as we, the garden, grow, the plants that receive our attention, that have the right growing conditions, are the ones that thrive. And the ones that we neglect are the ones that wither. We come into ourselves as our inner garden blooms, and each garden is as unique as the paths that we took. We all walk a different way, but they are all the way, all a different Tao, but they are all the Tao. I think this metaphor is good for describing many aspects of ourselves, our passions, our tastes in art and media, our political interests, who we fall in love with, the kinds of bodies we find attractive. I first heard this metaphor in Dr. Emily Nagoski's book, Come As You Are, which uses this garden metaphor to describe how we develop our sexuality and sexual preferences. More technically, it describes how our brains come to find certain things to be sexually relevant. And as Dr. Nagoski points out, that part of the brain which controls sexual responses is the same part of the brain that controls our stresses and many other of our emotional cycles. And so I think it's natural to expand this metaphor to also be able to describe why we like certain foods, why we like certain music, why we value certain ideals, and why we feel a need to stand up for certain causes. Not all aspects of the garden grow over time, mind you. Some of these things we're born with innately. The soil, how much rain you get, how long you can work before you need a break to let Mother Nature take hold. All of these perhaps are things that we're born with. And some gardens are predisposed for certain plants. A garden that is good for corn is not the same garden that is good for rice, and yet both will sustain you. And like the garden crops, we go through personal cycles where some plants recede and others then come to dominate. Let me tell you a little story from my life. This was near the end of college, and I went through a particularly nasty breakup. It was a very painful experience, and it dramatically changed the landscape of my garden. It killed off almost all interest in romance or intimate relationships, and it planted, or perhaps launched, a few seeds into the dirt. Bitterness about my failed relationship, perhaps a dissolving of the importance I had put on my relationship status. And I can see my life perhaps going one of two ways. I could have nurtured the bitterness and resentment, but instead I let those invasive plants die. It took a couple of years, but I did nurture my sense of self-worth instead, a sense of fulfillment without needing a romantic partner. And those, I think, made me a better person. When faced with challenge, I grew new plants that worked for me. And who I am now is the sum of all of my experiences and how I have chosen to tend my garden. We don't often get to choose which seeds end up in this garden. Now, sometimes it's quite easy to identify a message that you don't agree with, but sometimes toxic weeds can be subtle. Sometimes we are constantly inundated with cultural ideas, so we cannot avoid them. I heard it said recently that your first reaction is what society taught you to think, and your second reaction is what you really think. And I think there is some truth to that, at least. Some ideas have been with us for so long, their roots go so deep and wide that we cannot imagine thinking any other way, or we take these assumptions for granted. Just the other day, I watched a video of two women making a beautiful piece of art. I lack little visual artistic ability, so I really was quite impressed with what they were doing. But a part of my brain said to me, pretty good for a couple girls. What the hell, brain? You know very well that artistic ability has nothing to do with gender. But on reflection, I do think what I experienced was an expectation that was taught to me by society. And the societal expectation that women are not real artists. And that tension I felt was not a tension between my experience and my personal beliefs, but instead a tension with societal expectations. I am not immune to propaganda, and I have subconsciously absorbed at least some of the racism, sexism, and other oppressions which pervade our culture. But I can make myself a better person. And judgment, prejudice, and perhaps most of all, self-hatred originate from those plants in our garden that do not belong. But every garden is beautiful as it is unique. And every single one of you is beautiful. It is our personal taste that really makes us unique individuals. Yet we have a lot less control over our personal tastes than perhaps we think at first glance. Two of my favorite classes of music are alt rock and bluegrass, but I could never really get into J-pop. Can I right now choose to love J-pop music? I've tried, and I don't know if I can just do that. No more than you could right now choose to love country music or death metal, I think. But we don't always give attention to the plants that we intend. It may be hard to imagine a gardener accidentally tending to the weeds, but I think it is true in this case. And that's why self-reflection is so important, so that we may grow what we like and weed what we don't like. So far, I've said that these seeds find their way into our garden. But where do these seeds come from? I admit most seeds are planted by our parents. Those seeds are the ones that worked for them. And so they had good reason to give them to us. Or maybe it was the only seeds that they had. As we grow older, more and more of those seeds are picked and planted intentionally by us. But the seeds that we come to find do not just come from ourselves, no, they come from us, this community. We come here to be together so that we can grow our gardens with the plants that bring us joy. When we join together, we see that every garden is beautiful and that every single one of you is beautiful. Infinite Spirit of life, we ask thy blessings on these, thy messengers of fellowship and love. May they remind us, amid diversities of knowledge and of gifts, to be one in desire and affection and devotion to the holy will. May they also remind us of the value of camaraderie, of doing and sharing alike. May we cherish friendship as one of thy most precious gifts. May we not let awareness of another's talents discourage us or sully our relationship, but may we realize that whatever we can do, great or small, the effort of all of us is needed to do thy work in this world. It is now time to share in the flower communion. I ask that you approach the communion vase one at a time, quietly, reverently, with a sense of how important it is for each of us to address our world and one another with gentleness, justice, and love. I ask that you add the gift of your flower to the vase, just as you've brightened our lives with your presence. Then select a flower, different from the one that you placed, that you think would be good to plant in someone else's garden, just as we spread our message of love into the world. As you take your chosen flower, noting its particular shape and beauty, please remember to handle it carefully. Turn to the person behind you and give them the flower that you have picked from the vase. It is a gift, and when you are handed a flower, keep it with you as you pick the flower for the next person. Each flower represents that person's unique humanity and therefore deserves your kindest touch. Let us quietly share in this Unitarian Universalist ritual of oneness and love. So again, you'll do three things. You'll receive a flower, you'll put your flower in the vase, and you'll pick one for the next person. Give me one moment to step up to begin the process, and then we'll begin. So you can all now please step up. Thank you all. And now, in the slightly paraphrased words of Dr. Chapek, in the name of providence and love, which implants in the seed the future of the tree, and in our hearts the longing for people living in human love, in whom we move, and who makes the mother and father, the brother and sister, what they are. In the name of sages and great religious teachers who sacrificed their lives to hasten the coming of peace and justice, let us renew our resolution, sincerely to be real siblings, regardless of any bar which estranges us from one another. In this holy resolution, may we be strengthened, knowing that we are God's family, that one spirit, the spirit of love, unites us, and may we endeavor for a more perfect and more joyful life. Amen. Blessed be. Namaste.
Our closing hymn is number 8, Mother Spirit, Father Spirit, from the Gray Hymnal. Please feel free to sing as the Spirit moves you, stand in body or spirit, and join us in singing hymn number 8, Mother Spirit, Father Spirit.
Mother Spirit, Father Spirit, where are you? In the sky, song in the forest, sounds your cry. What to give you, what to call you, what am I? Many drops are in the ocean, deep and bright. Sunlight bounces off the ripples to the sky. What to give you, what to call you, who
Oh, okay. So Before we disperse, if there's anybody in the audience who'd like to comment on this ceremony, you're welcome to do so. Come up and share your thoughts. By popular demand. Well, oh. You want to come up?
When I read online of the presentation, which I think quite highly of, actually, more than when I first read on Friday night, and then Saturday, I was kind of a bit in shock just because, well, for one thing, the massive demonstrations occurring across our country, similar to the anti-Vietnam War demonstrations. Then considering that Netanyahu's tanks are all lined up about ready to literally roll across the people at Rafah. Then when you consider that Putin said that he was going to begin drills for a tactical nuclear weapon strike, my blood pressure rose quite a bit Saturday morning contemplating all of this. And suddenly it occurred to me what to do. I would advise you to try this yourself. You go to your browser and you type in Daisy commercial, and you'll see a black and white commercial that appeared in 1964. If it is unsettling and shocks you, that's the point.
Thank you all. Casey?
I just wanted to share about today's service. I thought it was absolutely wonderful, and I loved learning about some of the history of the UU Church, and the ceremony was absolutely just beautiful. I can't think of another word. Thank you for presenting it, Alec.
Thank you. Anyone else? I have a question for Alec. So Alec, you've probably been through many of these flower ceremonies throughout your life, right?
About once a year.
Once a year. So I was wondering, are there, various ways of celebrating them? Do churches do their own things or?
Yeah, it's different every year. I think it's different every year, even here.
Mhm.
Just like, so I learned that the UU symbol of the chalice was invented around the same time with a similar backstory. Well, at least there's a Nazi connection in that the symbol was used throughout Europe as a way to indicate to Jews and other people who were being oppressed that this was a safe house or somewhere where they could hide. That symbol was then adopted by the UU fellowship or by the UU community, and it was meant to be. And originally, each community would say what the chalice meant to them, what the chalice symbolizes for them, and so that way it is the community in each individual community that gets to dictate what does the chalice mean to us. And basically, it's the same thing with the flower communion, right? And with the only other UU ritual is the water communion, and I think the same is true for both of those. That we get to make it what we are. That we all, and it's recognizable wherever you go what it is. But each place has made it their own.
Thank you. So it's all of our rituals are probably sort of an expression of our uniqueness, or how we choose to put meaning into it. So thank you for that, Alec. Okay. Anyone else? Any other comments, observations? Anyone online, Adam? No? Okay. So this time, we will adjourn into the parish hall for further fellowship. Thank you.